Hello, everyone, and welcome to another K6 Office Hours. I'm Nicole van der Hoeven, and today we have two special guests. We're all from K6 here. You might already know Marie. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, my name's Marie, and I'm one of your dev roles here at K6.
And for the first timer in Office
Hey.
Hours, we have Edvinas Daugirdas. Did I get it right?
Yeah, you got it right. You got it right. That's good. Yeah.
Yes,
So,
on
hey
Okay.
point.
everyone. Yeah. Yeah, I'm Edvinas. I've been here with K6 for 2.5 years now, and yeah, I'm a senior front-end engineer.
That's awesome. So, what made you join K6 actually in the first place? How did we manage to convince you?
Yeah. So at first, so I was obviously looking for a new job, and the load testing perspective really like piqued my interest. I didn't really do any load testing prior to joining K6. But it looked really interesting. And actually, the first interview that I went to um, was really great. It was probably one of the best interviews that I had. So I really got like a good sense
Wow.
from from the interviewer who was there. Um,
Who was there?
and
Now I'm so curious.
yeah, it was Pavel actually. It was
Oh,
Pavel. Yeah, and he sold me the whole idea on K6 and how they're doing cool things and how the front end team is really strong and that the product is really interesting. So that's also was one of the main reasons. So I've looked at the app that the front end team was building, and it was just really great. Like the experience was superb. A lot of things were thought through, and I thought that I wanted to be a part of that. So yeah, after that, the second interview also, which is for a little bit more technical, with our front end lead Simon, was also really great. So that just made my decision like a lot easier.
Wow,
mm.
that's awesome.
Oh,
How's it been?
yeah. Sorry. I was just gonna check because you joined as well like 2 years ago, Nicole, right? So who joined first, you or Edvinas?
Oh, I think I joined November, late November. When did you say you joined? What month?
I think I joined in February.
Oh,
So
okay.
Okay.
so for me, I think right now it's like 2.5 years or something, like
Yes,
somewhere
same. I
roughly
think
there.
20, I want to say 2020. I don't know. I think it was November 2020. I think it was because we got acquired 2021.
Mm.
Hmm. Yeah, I think it
So
was 2021 for me, like somewhere January or February. I don't remember that well, but somewhere around there.
yeah. So how has it been since then? Did you like join and you're like, oh, that Powell, he totally spun me some story.
No, it's been really great actually. So these have 2.5 years. They almost like flew by. So
Mm.
it has been really interesting to work on cool things. And this is this is a company where I get to do a lot of like interesting like development. But I think the thing that is different from everywhere that I work, at least as a front end engineer, is that we have a lot of say on how the user experience is actually like of the app,
Hmm.
and we play a big role on how things are designed. So that's an area that's really interesting for me. So it kind of ticks two boxes, both of like development and the end experience for the user.
So before we get into what you've been working on most recently, I did want to call out that we've just had a pretty big release. It is the version 0.45 of K6, and I am just going to put in the release notes here in the comments. But there are a few things that I think are worth pointing out. The first is that we now have a new experimental module, so that's going to be cool. It's K6 Experimental gRPC. We already had a gRPC kind of extension, but now there's like extra support. This is something that has been requested. I know I've spoken to people like at conferences who are like, yeah, if only you had stream support. So we're actually going to have one of our other engineers who worked on this come on in 2 weeks. His name is Oleg, and he will be talking to us about all things gRPC. Another thing is that we now are able to upload tests to the cloud through the CLI without running a test. So previously you could already do like K6 cloud test.js and it would run that script on the cloud. However, there was always the situation where some people might want to use like something within a CI/CD pipeline and they just wanted to update the actual script but not necessarily run the whole thing. So now there's a way to do that. Now you just do K6 cloud test.js or whatever, and then there's a flag which is upload only to upload that. That's going to be the exact syntax will be in the release notes as well. There's also there's like actually a lot. I was going through it. There's now a way to set metadata for the whole virtual user. So what I'm thinking that this could be used for is that you can, is we added support in a recent version, I think it was 41, to have high cardinality metrics too, so you can like tag metrics and that has been possible, but you couldn't. There wasn't really an easy way to do it still, and now there is. So, for example, you could tag a certain metric with the certain user that you were running, or a type of user, like you want to say that it was an admin user or something like that. You can do that now. But there are also breaking changes we need to talk about. Marie, do you want to talk about the browser one?
Yeah. So we've had a few K6 Office Hours episodes already where we talked about, the importance of Web Vital metrics and how that is a much better measure for, the web performance user experience. So because of that, the team made the decision to remove the existing browser metrics. So previously we were reporting the browser DOM content loaded, the first like meaningful paint, first contentful paint, but then the first contentful paint, for example, that's already part of the Web Vital. So just to avoid duplication and to just really give the focus to our users that the Web Vitals are the important ones, then we've decided to remove the existing browser metrics that were originally part of K6 browser. But apart from that, there's just a few bug fixes as well that we've done from the browser perspective. So it's been like a really short cycle for us because we are preparing for something much better, which we're gonna talk about later.
Ooh. And the only other thing is it's not really a breaking change yet, but it will be. We are calling out that in a future version of K6, we're going to make it so that you won't be able to use metric names that are incompatible with OpenTelemetry and Prometheus. So this was something that we had to that is a pretty hard line decision, and we've made it because OpenTelemetry is the standard. It's becoming the standard now for the metrics. The standard format for metrics, and Prometheus has become pretty much ubiquitous, especially for anything related to Kubernetes. So we feel pretty confident in kind of putting our money where our mouths are, and putting all the support into making sure that everything will be able to be exported through Prometheus Remote Write and onward to whatever visualization tool you're using, like Grafana. So we're calling it out now, but it won't actually be a breaking change until version 0.48.0. We'll probably talk a bit more about some of these changes, but I did just want to call it out just because it was just released a couple days ago, so probably worth checking out. But today we're talking about Grafana Cloud K6. We have already had, I think it was Simon, to talk about Grafana Cloud K6 and what it is. But Edvinas, could you just like tell people if they haven't watched that, what Grafana Cloud K6 even is?
Right. So K6 Grafana Cloud, well, it's officially a Grafana app where you can uh, run your tests in the cloud, and the app provides you um, a lot of value on actually visualizing the test. You can do a lot of cool things with it. You can schedule tests, you can save tests, you can analyze tests. There's easy ways of actually creating a test. So we do have a test builder. So if you're not familiar with K6 scripting, you can use a UI that we've created for you, and it'll be easier for you to get started with it. There's a bunch of cool things that it can do. So if you want, we can go into some of it deeper.
Yeah, so I've actually been doing the Grafana office hours over on the Grafana channel. I plan to do more, but we started here in K6 office hours. And one of the things that I was talking about was a difference in the Grafana ecosystem between like a plugin, an extension, an app, a data source, because they have this concept of plugins, and the closest
Yes.
one for on the K6 side is an extension, but they're really different things. A Grafana plugin can be like a new data source. So, like if you want to be able to visualize metrics from a database, that database could be like Postgres or something. That could be a data source. And I believe that the first iteration of this K6 app was just a K6 cloud data source. So it's just a way to bring metrics in. And then people were like, well, but what about the dashboards and stuff? Because it's one thing to have the metrics, but it's another to visualize them. So then we had to have like the dashboards as well. And now it's like its own thing. It's a fully bundled experience where you get the data source and all the dashboards, and you don't have to do it yourself if you don't want to, basically. Um, so yeah, so why don't we have a look and see what it looks like now? So I think we last talked about it in March when it was officially announced.
Okay, cool. Let's do that. Do you want me to start presenting stuff?
Yes, please.
Yes, let's
Am
do
I the
that.
only one wearing a K6 shirt? Come on.
I
Slackers.
didn't
I
I
was
didn't come
gonna
in
wear it, but
prepared.
yeah, it's still wet because I just
Oh,
washed
I'm
it.
just hearing a lot of excuses.
I've had the mugs. Well, we both have the mugs. Yeah.
Oh, I don't have the mug. I have a transparent one. So I guess we can, while Edvinas is getting that up and running. Oh, you're already. I was going to
I'm
ask
already
about
there.
like what. Okay, so you go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, so yeah, maybe we can just start with I guess K6 Cloud in general, right? So what you're seeing is um, the base view that you would probably get if you just get started with. And as you can see, I already have quite a lot of tests here. I only ran 4 of them, and 2 of them are recorded tests, which is from a browser recorder that I will show to you in a bit. But so just to show up a few things that you can do, you have tests inside of a test view. You have test runs. You can click on those. You can also click on the bars, which is a new thing, and it's pretty cool. We wanted to bring that over for quite a while now. It just makes the navigation a lot easier. Yeah, and this is basically your test run. You can see a performance overview graph with quite a lot of data. Uh, it's also split out into 2 scenarios, and you can see those performance overviews too for any specific scenario. If you don't want to see that, you can just hide it, and that will be hidden for you. We have some performance insights, which is also quite cool. So you can see some things that we're looking at. If your test run is running correctly, did we find any issues with it? So if you had something bad happen, you would probably see entries here on the fail table. We also skipped a few things because they weren't necessarily to run. Then we have HTTP. So these are your requests. We have some checks here, thresholds, script, and logs, which I don't have any logs for this one. but yeah, that's kind of the main part of the application where you do a lot of heavy lifting. Um,
Can you
yeah,
show us
I'll go
the project activity view?
project
Okay,
activity.
so yeah, so there was a
Oh
part that
yeah,
was new.
I
Yeah,
guess it's
that.
this one, right?
Hmm.
Yes. So the last time I looked at it actually, because I don't know when this was released, but there you didn't have the like tests created, tests started, and all that. Those metrics weren't there yet.
Yeah, so this was released quite recently, and yes, you do get some interesting data around here. So you have information on how many tests you have created, how many tests you have started, the success rate, and also the most recent run. Also, cool thing is that you can see members on your project. I don't have any. I'm just here on my own.
Aw.
Yeah, so sad. But that's quite useful if you want to. You can quickly invite new members to it. So that's quite a handy thing to have.
What's that
Um,
setting icon on the right? Is that like where you
this
can
one,
customize, yeah, the view as well?
yeah. So this one takes you to project settings,
Mm.
and here you can invite users. If you have a lot of users, you can do also uh, different stuff here. So you can change the role, you can remove a user, you can search a user, you can add users. You
Nice.
can also
If you
change the
have
project
friends
name.
to add.
Yeah, if you have friends, if you're like me, you're all alone here.
Aw. Okay, so that was already available. I think a lot of the features that we're talking about, they're like, in a sense, we're playing catch up with K6 Cloud because there are already things that were on K6 Cloud, but not yet in the Grafana Cloud K6 app.
That is correct. Yeah. So we almost ported all of the features that we have in the K6 app. I think only a few are missing. But this project activity thing, it's actually new. We didn't have a projects list in the app in the old app or in the current app. So this is a whole new thing, and
Oh,
the project
nice.
activity is also a new thing because in the app you don't have the sidebar navigation. Well, you do have it, but you have projects listed right here in the left corner. And for this app, we decided to have a list because you can do cool stuff with it, especially if you have a lot of projects. The side left navigation doesn't always work because you can get so people can or customers and users can have up to hundreds of projects. So it
Mhm.
gets really hard to find the project that you want to look at. So we
Mm.
decided that this is a better solution for it.
Yeah. There's a comment here from Jose Ardia, and he mentioned that, yeah, it's like a great way to keep track of how many tests are performed and the variations as well. So great
Yeah,
developer experience.
that's cool to hear.
Awesome.
Someone likes it. Yeah, great.
Could you also show us how to create a new test?
Sure. Yeah, so you would select whatever project where you want to create your test. So I'll just check the default project, and there's this button which says create new test. And here you get a few options, right? So you can get instructions on how to run a test from a CLI. So it goes through to the 4 steps that you need to get, like install K6, authenticate, create a script, run a test, stuff like that.
Nice.
Um, and then you have two more options, right? So you can use the test builder, which is the like the UI solution that we have created where you can visually create tests. So you would probably use this if you're getting started, and it's a lot easier to just click on stuff, right, than writing an actual script. But it's not as powerful, of course, as writing scripts. But uh, this is a good place to get started. So you have requests, you have different options for scenarios. So you can see also this cool graph right here, where you add different stages, and it kind of shows to you how your load is going to be generated, which is pretty cool. You have all of the different executors here. You can also change load zones, thresholds, and add checks, variables. I'll touch upon that a little bit later on when I show off the browser extension. Um, and if you want to see, oh, since I don't have anything here, so let me just type in something, for example, test k6io. You can also see the actual script that it will spit out for you. And that's the test builder. So you can do that, or so yeah, I'll actually ask you if you want to leave because I haven't saved it. Or you can use the script editor, and that's like pretty easy to use. It's just a script editor, and you can type in here whatever you want. You also have an option of importing a HAR file, which I'll probably explain a little bit later what that is and how this can be useful to you.
Yeah. It's really great that there's obviously different ways on how to create a script, because if someone is not too familiar with vanilla JavaScript, then they can use the test builder to basically build up their confidence when it comes to writing a K6 test, and then you see it like on real time what the script looks like. So it's like a practice for you as well to learn programming, and it's great because K6 Cloud, can offer that.
Yeah.
By the
Actually,
way,
when I
it's
joined, oh yeah, sorry.
sorry. No,
Yeah,
it's just the
I just
line.
wanted to mention, yeah, that when I joined, I probably used the test builder for my first 2 months just to like get started real quick, and yeah, it helped a lot.
Nice.
Yeah, I think it's a great way to learn. I was just going to say we should probably also mention that we're showing Grafana Cloud K6, which this part that we're showing, you will need an account to be able to access, but it's a free account. So with Grafana Cloud K6, you do get like 500 virtual user hours a month. So you can just if you need that or less, then you don't actually even need to put in credit card details. So all of this, including like being able to use a test builder, that is unlimited. I know that there's some people, like even if they don't intend to use or run tests on Grafana Cloud K6, they could still just use the test builder to create their scripts that first time. But I hear there's a new way, an even easier way to create scripts now.
Yeah, there is. I'll actually need to reshare my screen because I think this is not showing the extensions that I have.
Oh, okay. Well, while you're doing that, maybe we could talk about like why you would need a recorder in the first place. We already have the test builder and we already have the script editor. And of course, you can still, use the CLI to run a K6 script that you've written locally in your IDE or something. Marie, why would you use a test recorder for?
Yeah. So I think with this, like one of the main thing is, say for example, you want to record a protocol level script, but from what your users are actually seeing. So from that perspective, you can use the browser recorder. You can interact it the way that your users would do, and then you are then like you then see a script for that, but on what's happening on the protocol level. So it shows you what assets are being downloaded, what the different requests are. So rather than remembering, or I guess like keeping track of all those different resources, you can easily use the browser recorder so that you can keep track of those automatically. So for me, that's the main advantage as to why you would use the browser recorder.
We have an hola here from Jose. Saludos desde Chile. Bienvenido. Saludos desde Portugal. Just saying greetings from Portugal. Let's get on to Edvinas's screen share.
Yes, so let me present you the Chrome extension. Well, it's not only for Chrome, actually. We also have an extension for Firefox. So this is how it looks like when it's set up. And by setup, I mean you click a sign in button and it signs you in, and you select your stack where you want to record your tests. So I already done this because it's just easier to show it off. But you would want to select your stack because after recording is done, you'll be redirected to whatever you've selected, and there you will be able to save a test.
Hey,
So
I'm noticing that sorry, this is probably totally irrelevant, but
okay,
the it's an orange K6 logo.
yeah, it's an Orange King 6 logo. That's right. Um, we changed it up a bit because we also have an old extension, and the
Mm,
logo looks the same,
yeah.
and it has it has the purple color. So we wanted to have it look a little bit different, right? Because if you have two extensions and you're using two platforms, you probably want to somehow differentiate them, right? And not be mad all the time that you clicked the wrong one. So yeah, so it's an orange one. It looks nice. I like it. I personally really like it. It looks cool, I think.
Yeah, it does. So how does it work?
Yes, how does it work? Yeah, so it works quite easily actually. So I can start by going into, so let me open testcase6.io because I'm boring. I don't have anything else cool to show off, so I'll be just using that for now. So it's quite easy, right? There's one big button which says start recording. Um, so let's click that. Let's see what happens. So now it says you're recording. Everything happening in this tab will not be recorded until you stop or pause. So what's happening right now is that if there are any requests coming in from your browser from your current tab, that will be recorded and stored in a file called a har file, which is like an abbreviation for HTTP archive. Um, and then we can take that har file and generate a K6 script from that. So yeah, let's do some clicking. Nothing too interesting. So let's go to the contacts page. Let's see on the news, for example. And this is an interesting example. I'll explain why later. But this one has a form, and underneath it, so if you look, let's inspect some stuff right here. So as you can see, it has a CSRF token, which is used to prevent from basically like reusing your form or sending requests that you will want to send. So this is like a security measure. And we actually know that because this is like a convention that a lot of people use. So this will be also recorded and will be stored as a variable. That doesn't make much sense. Let's see what will happen at the end. So yeah, let's log in, go back, and then you can click cancel or you can click stop here. To me, it's usually easier to click cancel, so let's do that. And there was an issue connecting with your instance. What?
You
I have never
didn't
seen that
you
happen.
didn't make your sacrifices to the demo gods today.
This has never happened.
Have you tried turning it off and on again?
Yeah, so like my instance just stopped working. What?
We
Oh,
performance tested Grafana Cloud. Successful test.
yeah.
This is a bit unexpected.
Mm.
So what is supposed to happen?
So what is supposed to happen is that the script that you've just recorded, um, it's supposed to show up in the plugin, and you can select what kind of type of test you want to create. So you can either choose test builder or you can choose a script editor, and the
I
script's
see that
supposed to be
you
generated for you. Yeah,
I see that it was you also downloaded a har file there
Yeah.
automatically.
that's correct. Yeah, I have a download har file option right here. So you can turn that off or on. And the har file is basically a JSON formatted file which has um, all of your requests inside of it that we just did, right? And it's a little bit different from the har specification that's out there. So since we support variables, so this is the third option right here, which has correlate request and response data. So we can correlate data that's coming
We
in
don't
from
actually see that,
responses.
by the way. If you're
Oh, you
showing
don't?
if you're showing options on the plugin, we don't see it.
So it's not actually streaming it. I
Mm.
see.
I
That's
think
weird.
it's just a sharing thing, maybe.
Maybe share the whole window, or I don't know.
Yeah, I
The
actually
whole
did.
screen.
Mm.
Oh, he left.
You've scared Edvinas, Nicole.
I know I am pretty scary. Well, we can talk about what we would do if we were in that situation while Edvinus is trying to not
Yeah.
panic quit. I think that like he already had shown that you can import the horror file. That is something that you could do. This is why we automatically can download that horror file so that if something happens, you can just import it. And look, see, I didn't scare him off after all.
Wrong button. Wrong button.
Yeah, we figured it's fine. So what you could do is import that har file, and the cool thing is that because har is like a standard, it's not a proprietary format that K6 uses. A lot of other apps can also record har files. I think you can even do it within developer tools in Chrome or something, or you can do it with like Wireshark or some sort of like some other sort of proxy. And if you have that har file, you can then import that into Grafana Cloud K6, and you'll be effectively where this plugin is going to be taking you.
Yeah.
Is that actually what the plugin does? Does it just import the har file, or does it do something different?
So yes, what it does is that it communicates, the extension communicates with the plugin, and it gets the har file, and then the app uh, translates that har file into a K6 script. And
Mm.
it does that by using, we have a separate open source library, which is called har2k6. So we leverage
Mm.
that, and it converts the har file into a K6 file.
Yeah. I was actually going to comment about that because, like, when obviously it was returning that error, but then the har file was downloaded. An alternative way is to convert that har file using the har to K6 conversion that we have already, and then once you have your Grafana Cloud K6 instance backup again, you can just copy the script directly because that har to K6 will convert that to an actual K6 script. So that is also an alternative. But I'm guessing the browser recorder simplifies all these steps so you don't have to, do it yourself manually. You can just record the user journey, and then by stopping it, you then have the script created.
Yes, yes, that's correct. You can also, so you can actually use the extension without logging in into Grafana.
Mm.
So when you open it for the first time, it will actually ask you, do you want to sign in? If you're signed in, then it doesn't ask you because you probably want to use it in Grafana Cloud. But if you don't, you can click on a button which says, I don't want to save tests in the cloud, and you can just record har files and use har2k6 and then use that however you want. So that's also like a small difference from our previous extension because that wouldn't allow you to do that. I think I have my Grafana instance working again, which is, well, it's not totally correct because I'm trying to use a different Grafana instance, and this one looks like it wants to work. So maybe let's try
Nice.
doing that again.
Your other instance just got lonely from you being the only person there.
Yeah,
Threw a hissy fit.
let's see. Let's see
Okay,
if
I
this
can
works.
add that. All
Yay,
right,
now
we
we
are
can,
seeing your screen. Okay, and now we
yes,
see those options as well.
yes.
Mm.
Awesome, finally. Right, so these are the options that I talked about. So you can select whether you want to download har file or not after the recording stops. I usually like to have it in case something happens,
Like
like it
what
just
just
did,
happened.
right? That would especially be really bad if you did a long recording and you went through a lot of use cases and you would need to do that again. So um, this one is on by default. All of these are on by default. Then you have clear cache, which basically just clears your cache so that in case a request comes in that it wouldn't be cached, so it always does that request. And then we have correlate and request response data, which I wanted to show, and maybe I'll be able to show that off. So let's try this again. So there are also different ways of starting the recording. So if you have the extension already there, you can, for example, go either to test builder or script editor. So you can go here. And if you haven't started the recording prior yet, looks like I haven't on this instance, it will say record a scenario. So we can click that, and it will ask you for the URL where you want to start your recording with. So I'm boring. I'll just use testk6io. Let's click start recording, and it will show you like little like short information on what's going to happen and what does this do, like generate request, stop recording, and that it will save your test right here. So let's not wait for total 20 seconds and go back to here again. So yeah, let's click on
So,
contacts.
Edvinas,
Yeah,
how do people actually install it? Do you have to install the extension separately, or like what if you don't have it installed and you try to record a scenario without having installed it? Will that install it?
it will send you a link, so we can see whether the extension is installed. So if it's not installed,
Okay.
you'll be presented with a different screen which will say install the extension from here. Here you have a link that will redirect you either to Firefox or Chrome extension, depending on what you have. Then you will install it, go back, and hopefully it should work.
Cool.
Yeah, so continuing with this again, since I was already logged in, I'll need to log out again just to show off that cool correlation. Hopefully it works since I was logged in. I'm not sure, but let's try it nevertheless. Right, so after you're done, whatever you wanted to do, you can click cancel. And again, this downloads the HAR file for me because I already had that set up. And
Yay.
yay, nice, it works. I'm happy. So cool, right. So as you can see, you're presented with a different screen. And here you have a couple of options. You select the project where you want to save your test. You have the test name. Record test works fine for me. Select where you want to save it, right? Where you want to author it, either in test builder or script editor. And then it also asks you like some questions here, like when do you want to generate sleep? I probably say this is a good idea. Whether you want to include static assets, like usually people don't want to be testing static assets, right? Because that's not really that interesting. And whether you want to correlate request and response data. So these options work fine for me. I'm clicking save, and let's see what happens. So we got all of the requests that we were doing. So starting with test case 6io, contacts, messages, then we have the login page twice, and then we have the last request with the test case 6io. If you look at the script, here's the script generated. And these are all of the requests that went in when we did the recording. They're also grouped by pages, which is it's not that useful here in this scenario because there's only one request per page. But if you had a lot of requests sent out in a page, then it would make it easier to kind of group things together. Now the cool part about variables. So we saw prior, hopefully it was easy to understand that we had two invisible inputs, which were the CSRF token and the redirect token. And again, that's being used for security measures. When a user submits a form, that we know that it was submitted from an authority that we trust, right? Because that token was generated on server side, and so we want to reuse that. So without these tokens, the form wouldn't work, so you would get an error. So what the extension can do, it can notice that there are a couple of tokens that are available, and let's reuse them. Let's set them as variables, and we can send them in different requests. So if you look into the script, And let's scroll down a little bit. Well, on this page, on the login page, we found two variables, the redirect one and the CSRF token, and we've taken the values of those inputs. And when we're submitting the form, here's the page, the login PHP, the post request that we're doing.
Nice.
It's using those values. So when you're running the test, it will not crash, right? Because you will always have those values. So that's pretty cool. It's being used like in other different cases too. So this also works like with nonces and some other stuff. But the cool thing is that yeah, we're trying to find these requests and correlate them accordingly with other requests that we're doing. So if I would say this is like a use case, a good use case if you don't want to manually writing this stuff up, right? You can just run this and even use this just like as a starting point if you want to do some other stuff with it.
Yeah, it saves so much time as well because if you're just doing this manually and like if you just forgot those two variables and you just add your username and password and you might be wondering like I've added the login, like why is it still not working? So if you're using the browser recorder, it just saves you that time, so you can just worry about actually structuring your test rather than figuring out what's wrong with my script.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So hi,
Could we
how
also
I'm
run this?
yeah, sure. Let's run this. Let's see. Pretty sure it should work.
So while that was going, I was thinking we could also talk about the limitations of any browser recorder. Marie, do you have any thoughts on that?
I guess like the first one was like something that we were discussing a while ago is that maybe it doesn't work well if you have like multiple tabs open, that it only really works if you're on a singular tab. And I haven't tried it myself, but with like complex like scenarios, maybe it's much better to do it on the K6 browser experimental module rather than doing everything on the protocol level. Because just a quick look, for example, on the script that got generated, like the length of that was quite long already. So if you have a much more complex user journey, and if you're using the recorder and convert that to a protocol test, maybe think if that is a better use case for the K6 browser experimental module instead.
So in this case, we were able to record and then run right away. It is important to know that this is like a test site as well. So it is supposed to be relatively simple to test. And you saw it was mostly an API thing. And that's why, like you're saying, Marie, if it's something that's a little bit more complex, I think it's important to set the expectation that this is like going to get you started. You should not expect this to be the only scripting that you're ever going to have to do. Meaning, you should still expect to have to go into the code at some point. Like, for example, maybe add a few checks. You can do that in the test builder as well, but the browser on its own, the browser recorder on its own, isn't going to necessarily know what you want to check for. It's not just things like did it get an HTTP 200, but it could be that you might want to check for a particular string in the response or something like that. It looks like we are also getting an error
Yeah, we
in
are.
the
We are.
in the
Yeah,
replay.
we are. Yeah, it could be because
A
I was
403.
yeah, I was logged in the first time when I started the test, so it probably recorded the wrong variable name and it used CSRF1 and redirect one because I was already logged in the first time. So
Yeah.
I think this is supposed to be without one, and
Mm,
this one is supposed to be without one, then it would work fine. But
Yeah.
it did that because it saw it two times basically.
yeah.
But
So
that's
it's
why
not
this
as
is
smart. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't think that a recorder can be. I mean, it's not supposed to replace a human, right? It's
Yeah.
supposed to get you started. I mean, already, this is something that you just had to hit record, do the things that you wanted to do, and already you have a starting point, at least from the test builder, and then you can flip over to the script editor as well. So I think from that perspective, it's really good. Another situation where I think this could be useful is in a production site, like not something that's just for testing. You might have a single request that has like embedded resources that you also have to retrieve. Those are a pain because if you have to retrieve those individually and you have to script that can take a very long time. So I like to use browser recorders for that initial one. If I know I'm going to want all of those resources, then it's nice to just be able to have the recorder do that for me.
I have a separate question. You know, when you were demoing the browser recorder, and then it crashed with the Grafana instance. So you visited the site already, and then you start the recording from there. Whereas the second one, you started the recording and then you provided the URL. So the recording started before navigating to the URL. So, like from a recommended practice point of view, would you say that you need to start the recording um, before navigating to the URL, or should the user be on the URL already and then start, recording?
Yeah, I would suggest start recording from a blank tab. So if you want to hit that, if you want to save that recording, that first initial request in your recording, then you should definitely start from a blank tab. If you're not interested in the initial request, um, then of course you can already start on wherever you want to start, right?
Nice.
And then the other thing that I thought might be good to mention is that you took us through a few options that are by default enabled in the plugin in the extension. And I think that it would be good to just leave those because, for example, the clearing the cache from the last 7 days. I think unless you're sure that you want to, so this is recording. This is recording as if you are the user that you want the script to be, basically. So if you want to test a returning user, then you should disable that. But I think if you want to test as if you were a new user, then you should keep that enabled and clear the cache. Because otherwise, if you are trying to simulate load that is primarily new users and you don't get that cache cleared and it's in the recording, then it can be a problem because your script is no longer actually reproducing the scenario that you wanted to reproduce. And then the other thing was the correlation. I think it's probably good practice to leave that on unless you know that it doesn't work. Like you already tried it and it was messing up or something, then you can disable that. Also, the third party resources. I saw like when you do the browser recorder, there's an option to, I think, filter out the
Yeah.
requests to third party domains. That
Yeah.
can get you into trouble if you leave that in.
Yeah, by default, that's all of those things are disabled because you probably don't want those in your script.
Yeah, because there are a lot of calls, like for example, maybe to Google or for analytics or whatever, or sometimes there are calls to like Facebook. If you have some trackers in the site, you might be in breach of your SLAs with that company with that third party if you load test their stuff.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, yes.
Yeah. So what do you think? Are there still any features of the K6 browser recorder extension, the one for K6 Cloud, that haven't been yet ported over to this version?
No, so everything is the same. It's actually like we use a lot of the same code in both code bases. So everything is already ported. Again, the only difference is that the old extension, it redirects you back to the old app, and this one redirects you to your stack, whichever you select.
And the
Are there
iOS.
any? Yes, important difference. Are there any other features that you plan to add or that are on the horizon, or is that pretty much it for now?
That's pretty much it for now. We have some use cases which are not that well supported. So I know that for bigger recordings, if you have a lot of requests, um, bad things can happen. We haven't investigated into too much because that's like a big edge case, but
Mm.
we'll probably want to look at it at some point. But in terms of new features, this is all that we have for now.
I have a request.
Okay.
I mean, I think I mentioned this before, but one thing that I would love is like a way to more cleanly separate, more control basically over those groups, because
Mhm.
sometimes it's nice to be able to say like, okay, for this group I'm doing this action, and here are the requests that were associated with that action, and then now I want to do this other thing. Then when I see the recording later, it's not just like a bunch of requests and I'm like, what did I do again? So maybe a way to leave comments or something, just to say like, okay, now I clicked this link, here are the requests, and then I
Mhm.
wait a little bit and stuff, just so I guess that's also like from the point of view of supporting more robust use cases and user journeys.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense. Yeah.
I think I would love to also see a feature that really just got released. I think you said it was released yesterday. If you feel comfortable doing that.
Uh, you probably mean the test comparison, right?
Yes.
Mm.
Let me see if I. Oh, so my instance now decided to work again. Nice. My old instance, the original
It
one.
is just the
Cool.
sacrifices, Edvinas. Like you gotta stay on top of that. You miss one day and they will never forgive you.
Yeah, you never know what I did in those 2 minutes when I was out and you didn't see me.
Yeah. You did a rain dance or something.
Yeah, yeah. Sacrifice the demo gods. But yes, okay, yeah, that's true. We have one more really cool feature that we've released, and it's called test comparison. So it's, what it says it is, you can compare test runs right now, and you can do that on this right little corner. You have this select right here, and you can select test runs which you want to compare with. So I don't have a lot of tests right here. I only have two, but you can imagine that you can have like quite a lot of test runs here, and you can search them. Usually, what I've seen, people create a baseline test which they think is a good test, and they compare it to that one. But I don't have it, so I just have two test runs. But that should work pretty well, I think. So yeah, let's click on a different test run, and here you can see that the charts are a little bit different right now. So we're in the test comparison mode, as we like to call it, and you can compare what happened in between two test runs, right? So you can compare different metrics. Here you can see the VUs from the left test run and the right test run. That's how we call it. You can also swap these if you want.
Mm.
In this case, this doesn't do much, but um, you can do that. Some good metrics to have like all around, like just for overview. These tests are really similar one to each other, so you don't see a lot of difference. Uh, but you actually see some right here. So the test on the right side had, well, I wouldn't call it a spike, right? It's 4 milliseconds. It's not that much, but relatively speaking, right, you can see that there was this like little small spike in response time, and you can see here like a different one, but just from the left test run. So you can see how this can be useful when you're comparing and analyzing data between your test runs, so you can see what happened, right? Um, There's,
So
there's,
I
yeah,
have a question. Did
sure.
you work on test comparison as well?
No, I didn't actually.
Okay, because I was just wondering, it must have been difficult because I know that one of the limitations with Grafana core dashboards is that it isn't straightforward to compare multiple time ranges. I mean, if they're completely different, because in this case, these were not tests that were run at the same time, they were run at different times. So overlaying it is actually
Yeah,
not easy.
it's not. Technically, I don't know for sure, but from what I've heard, it's not an easy task. And we at first we didn't even know that we could do it, so we thought it just wouldn't be possible with what Grafana
Mm.
Chart provides, but it actually is. So kudos to other developers who worked on this. I think what technically happens is that you just shift the values and just place it on the chart. Um, but yeah, it wasn't that easy to achieve.
Hmm.
So
From
recently, oh, go ahead, Marie.
just out of curiosity, so if there are any like stark differences between the two test comparison, like can a user set alerts based on, for example, hey, this new test in terms of the response time, it was considerably, much more slower, or is that something that they would have to, analyze themselves?
Yeah, right now they would have to analyze themselves. We don't have any alerting associated with these charts, unfortunately.
Mm.
So I have a not an answer, but a possibility for that. In Grafana 10, there was something that was announced called the Scenes framework, and what that is a an entirely different framework for the way that apps are built and also executed in Grafana. So the K6 app. It is an app that uses the old app framework, or it's not really old, it still is current, but it doesn't use scenes yet. And one of the things that scenes added is that it makes it a lot easier to do things like compare multiple time ranges, and stuff. And the other thing that it would allow is for the extension, so things like interactions between apps. So like you were saying, Marie, something that is, because right now the K6 app is on its own and alerting is like separate, and you can use both, but you have to switch between the two. So there are changes that are coming or that have actually come. The groundwork is already there for apps to interact with each other, to have actions that go from one to the other, extensions that can be added to an app so that it's like a hook or something. So you could, I'm really excited about it because this is what I see as a future of the K6 app, is that like in Grafana dashboards now you can do things like, oh, this is the CPU utilization of on this node. Now I want to use machine learning to predict the future CPU utilization. I would love to see that with K6, especially on K6 tests that are running in a pipeline, and you can use machine learning to be able to detect what's going to happen in the future. Like that would be really awesome.
Mm. The future, definitely.
Yeah, that sounds pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, so I wonder if there have been any discussions internally already about potentially adopting the scenes framework. I'm sure it's not an easy task.
Yeah, there was. We looked at it actually prior uh, to working on this feature on test comparison, and we wanted to use it, but unfortunately, as of this point, it does not support all of the use cases that we want to support. So we decided to build something custom, at least for now.
Yeah, it is. It has just been released, like it was announced maybe two weeks ago or something at
Yeah.
GrafanaCon. So pretty new, but yeah. What about you? There any things that you can talk about? I mean, you don't have to commit to a time or anything, but like, what is the disparity like between what's currently available in K6 Cloud versus what's available for the Grafana Cloud K6 app?
Yeah, I think we're actually almost there. So if we're talking about big features, all of the big features are already in the Grafana Cloud. I I think when I'm saying that all of them have been released, maybe I'm just thinking about something that wasn't released and I'm forgetting something. But I think that we've ported everything quite recently. So yeah, schedule test, save test, it's already there. We have usage, well, usage reports is not ported. So yeah, maybe that's one big feature that we haven't ported yet.
Were there
But we
already
have,
baseline tests?
sorry?
Baseline tests? Is that
Yeah,
okay?
yeah, we have baseline tests. You can also, so if you go to a test run, you can
Mm-hmm.
set it as a baseline. I actually have this one saved, so you can save a test or remove save status.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the yeah, that's also one. The PDF summary, we're currently working on porting that, so that will work kind of natively uh, with Grafana Cloud. Right now, it's just a jump link, right? So you need to it'll basically open it in a different app.
So
But I
pretty
think
close to feature
that's it.
parity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty close. We're 2 or 3 features away, I think, and yeah, we'll be on feature parity.
And then I think the next part is going to be really exciting because now we're going to start developing things that aren't in K6 Cloud that will be in Grafana Cloud K6. Marie, I know you had a stake in, in at least one feature.
Yeah, so the team's been really working hard to basically get K6 browser part of the whole K6 cloud experience. So our, for example, goal for the next cycle is to have a stable version of K6 browser integrated in K6 cloud, and obviously like there's gonna be ongoing work to support the developer experience for that, because at the moment like we don't have a tab for Web Vitals. Like we do have like wireframes created already on how it will look like, and there's been like positive comments about it. So I'm just excited, like to have that K6 office hours episode where we can demonstrate browser in the cloud, because we've been getting a lot of like requests, getting a lot of like messages as to when customers can also use the browser module as part of the Grafana K6 cloud. So definitely it's gonna happen soon. We just need to have an episode and like everything all scheduled in. So fingers crossed.
Awesome. And we are a bit over time, but I definitely wanted to get that out there because I think browser in the cloud is going to be really awesome. But thank you both for coming. Thank you, Edvinas, for showing us your stuff. I'm glad you managed to appease the demo gods in time.
Thank you. Yeah.
And thank you everybody for watching. And I guess we'll see you all next week.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.